Hello and welcome. This is People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marere. After several years of the unrestrained activities of criminal and bloodthirsty groups in different parts of the country, a federal high court this past week finally declared bandits as terrorists while proscribing their activities. This was at the instance of the federal government, which filed an ex parte motion to that effect. The branding of bandit groups as terrorists has been a key demand of many Nigerians, but the federal government has been foot-dragging on the issue. Bandits have in the last couple of years wrought a lot of havoc on the Nigerian society beyond the comprehension of anyone. According to the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, bandits have attacked 25 schools and abducted 1,440 students in the country in 2021 alone. These figures may in fact be conservative estimates, as some states have been forced to shut down schools and relocate their students to other places while disrupting the education system generally. This is aside from thousands of other Nigerians who have been hapless victims of these bandits, who targeted them either in their homes and communities or on the highways. Many communities have become killing fields of these bandits, unrestrained and unchecked. Now, up until now, many Nigerians have given up hope that these murderous menace will be decisively dealt with by the government, given its somewhat lackadaisical attitude and approach to a problem that made Boko Haram almost pale into insignificance until ISWAP came into the equation. However, the big question is, with the mere proscription of bandit groups and others and their branding as terrorists stop their rather lucrative business of abductions for ransom, rape, slavery, and forced marriages? Why is it necessary to formally designate a criminal enterprise as a terrorist before bringing down the full weight of the law on them? And is this too little, too late in the day, given the pervasive nature of the enterprise and the boldness and impunity with which its operators, supporters, and sponsors have carried on? To what extent can security forces deploy their might against bandits like they have done against insurgents? What's next for the state? Now, another security-related issue is the now controversial leaked report of the Lagos NSAS Judicial Panel. The panel gained global attention because its brief included the verification of the events of October 20, 2020 at the Lekki toll gate, where scores of persons were alleged to have been killed by security forces. The leaked report has since become controversial because several discrepancies and inconsistencies have been identified in it, while many other persons have stood rock solid behind the supposed findings of the panel. We shall delve into some of the issues that have been thrown up by that panel's report. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment, and we will get to meet our panel of analysts. All right, let's get to meet our panel of discussants. First, from my far left is best man Nze Jumbo. Mr. Jumbo is an alternative security expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Jumbo.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining us is Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, retired, a former Director of Operations, Nigeria Air Force. Thank you so much, Air Commodore, for joining us.
Thank you.
And also with us is Barrister Buhari Yusuf. Of course, as his title suggests, he is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us,
for joining us.
Thank you.
Right. Welcome. So, let's begin this way, Air Commodore. Let's begin with the decision by the court last week to brand bandits as terrorists. This has been a sore point. You and I have had a discussion around this before, but eventually this seemed to have come true, as it were. Does it satisfy the yearnings of those who have always campaigned that bandits should be treated the same way as terrorists?
Oh yes, terrorism is a weapon of the weak. You know, when somebody cannot stand up to you and say, let me fight you, then they employ terrorism. It's a tactics. Okay, so they want to subdue you, they want to scare you. They want you to be so afraid of them because they are unpredictable most of the time. So how do bandits operate? You can't predict them. They can come from anywhere. So who are they? Are they armed robbers? No, they are beyond armed robbers. Armed robbers will always come to where they want to catch you. But bandits go to you. They take the fight to you. Like the terrorists that we know, like the Boko Haram, now take the fight to us. They started by sending IEDs, explosives here and there, but today they are taking it to us. So it's a good development that they have finally agreed that bandits are also terrorists. And terrorists, like bandits, like any other person that is causing mayhem in our society, will be dealt with accordingly. So I'm happy it has finally happened.
So, Mr. Jumbo, terrorism and banditry, there are those who have argued over time that perhaps some of those who became bandits were actually deserters from the Boko Haram terrorist group. Do we have any facts to support this?
You know, sometimes assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. When you assume and you escalate your assumption to a point that you want to make it like a fact, it can't stand the test of time. So I might not have facts to support the claim of some people that these people are deserters, but events have shown that probably many of them were people who were with the terrorists. Well, we have to be very clear with the use of terms now. Who were with the terrorists?
Or who were with the insurgents?
Well, terrorists. We group the terrorists and insurgents as one.
Yes.
So who were with the insurgents? Who were with the terrorists? Now, when the heat got hotter for them, they left, they deserted, started another viable trade and called it, which we help them term as banditry. Eventually, the thin line is this: terrorists have a structure where you could identify leadership. They have an objective, which you and I, which might be inimical to the safety of you and I, but they have an objective, and they can be reached.
And they have a command structure.
Exactly, they have a command structure, so it is easy to term them terrorists. The bandits, you don't even know them, in quotes, because later eventually some people actually know them. But we don't really officially know them. They don't have an objective. They don't have a command structure. So it was a bit complex calling them terrorists. But now, because they've escalated their activities to state terrorism, state attack, trying to attack the Nigerian nation, we don't have a choice than to group them just like those who want to take over the country as terrorists. And the advantage of it is this: the extreme way you could deal with terrorists, you couldn't deal with those with some bandits then. Just like you wouldn't bring the Air Force to release bomb because some armed robbers are somewhere, which was restricting the Nigerian military. But now that they are termed terrorists, the military can go full blast against them. That's the advantage I'm seeing.
We'll come back to that issue very shortly. But Mr. Yusuf, what is the legal implication of this group of people being declared now terrorists?
Yeah, I think first of all we have to appreciate the position of the court in this issue. Bandits were not declared terrorists by the Federal High Court in Nigeria. The prosecutor came with two names, identified names, and now applied that they should be declared terrorists, which was done. Because you cannot legally declare bandits as terrorists. They have different legal definitions, operational approaches, and what have you. Let me take terrorists for the purposes of this discussion. A terrorist, the most prominent feature of a terrorist is political objective. And then taking out a certain geography of a sovereign country to appropriate it to himself. And then establishing an ideology and coming with state apparatus, hosting flags, and all that is known with an established state. An example of terrorists: Eswa, Boko Haram, IPOB, Yoruba Nation, because they've been able to develop and profile an objective that counter the existence of the state. But a bandit belongs to the genetic family of robbers, kidnappers, thieves, arsonists. And then what I want us to appreciate here is this: the definition of terrorism wasn't locally manufactured. It is a legal global consensus as to who is a terrorist, because we require global collaboration in order to arrest the drift. So we cannot come by a definition that does not go in tandem with the global appreciation of who is a terrorist. I could understand the euphoria created by what these guys are doing, but you see, no court can come and say bandits are terrorists. You have to come by in your application with specified names.
And that was exactly what it did. And the court order, the court ruling said, gave these two names and said,
yes,
and other such groups.
Yes, with the same ideology.
Yes, and other such groups which puts them on the same pedestal.
Yes, with the same ideology. If they appropriate a geography onto themselves, of course they are terrorists. But an armed robber, whatever the number of people he killed, he's not yet a terrorist. That is not my own definition of it. That jurisprudential explanation as regards the issue of terrorism and banditry.
All right, General, you want to respond to that, because going by what Mr. Jumbo said earlier on, it appears to me that with this court order, it seems to have placed banditry in the same realm as terrorism, and as such, it has given the security forces some leeway to then deal with these bandits the way it has been dealing with terrorists.
Yeah, we have been keeping Nigeria safe for a while, but it's not an easy task. I don't know how you produce a bullet differently from the one you use against bandits and the one you use against terrorists. Because whoever is your adversary, and once the military is called in, once the president says, yes, the police can no longer handle this situation, military come in. Though we have different equipment for different challenges, but at the end of the day, it's that bullet. And they've not determined which bullet will be good enough for the terrorists and which one will be good enough for the bandits. So we in the military, yeah, when we hear things like this, we said, okay, as long as you don't deploy us. If you deploy us and say, please keep Nigeria safe, we will make sure Nigeria is safe. Yeah, there's been so much rumors everywhere, but what do you say about a bandit or bandits who go to your place, to your villages, and ransack the whole place? Will you rub them on the head and say, well done, go, sin no more? Maybe because I'm in the military, we don't do that. We want Nigerians to be safe, and whatever we need to do to make Nigeria safe is what we will do.
Now, I asked that question as a background to the next question I'm going to ask. Now, you recall that several months back, Nigeria ordered and received some military aircrafts called Tucano.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was said, oh, they were only going to be deployed against the terrorists, the Boko Haram, ISWAP, and the rest of them. Now, can those same military equipment now be deployed against any other forces or any other groups in Nigeria that are bent on destabilizing the nation?
Yeah, for me, this is it's a trivial issue. In that I've had plenty of people say, we can't use them against the bandit, we can't use them against, because there's a clause in the contract that said it's just for terrorists. I have been out of service for like 7-8 years, so I don't know exactly what the clause is. But the thing I would like to, the analogy I would like to say is that you go to a supermarket and you buy a knife from that man, and you go home with the knife. Will the man that has sold that knife to you tell you you can only use it to kill chicken? Don't use it to kill goat or ram? You have bought that knife, and whatever you use the knife for, especially when you have paid, it's not on loan, it's not a wet lease, it's a fully paid equipment. Like I said, I'm no longer in the service, but if I was there, I will use any equipment given to me appropriately to conquer whoever is our adversary and ensure Nigerians are safe. So I don't think that distraction, we should allow such a thing to distract us. It's a government-to-government issue. So we allow the politicians, our rulers, to decide that we in the military is the objective we are after. Whatever we are told to do, we will do.
Barrister, can the activities of armed robbers actually be equated with what we have seen bandits do? In the last 1 or 2 weeks, we have seen a situation where bandits held sway on the Abuja-Kaduna road for several days, kidnapping so many people, killing prominent Nigerians and all. Can we really equate their activity with that of, say, armed robbers or petty thieves? Are they not closer to being terrorists than being closer to armed robbers?
The difference between an armed robber and possibly a kidnapper, to me, is a sheer display of semantics. They are all the same thing: killing, destruction, and stealing. What I emphasize when you gave me opportunity some times ago was to now say that, look, the law that created punishment for terrorism doesn't apply to armed robbery. The one for armed robbery doesn't apply for terrorism. And I told you, of all these crimes, the one that attracts global currency is terrorism. And therefore, because of the cooperation and collaboration we've been getting, we have to do according to the definition of it by the international jurists. And who is a terrorist? It is defined. If today an armed robber got hold of this place, may God forbid it, and now hosts a flag, and then begin to say that, look, don't sing national anthem here, he's already declared a terrorist by his actions. But like I told you, no amount of activities of banditry that qualifies to be terrorist. But look at the clever way the federal government, and I knew the federal government came under intense pressure. That was why they came under these two names. Because first of all, you have to identify the group. Just like my colleague said, you have to come by their leadership ranking, what they stand for ideologically, and what they do. What are their motives? So it's not just enough to say they are killing people and therefore today, but I am not divorcing the fact that all armament could be deployed or must even be deployed to make sure they are crushed. the approaches to how they are taken to their creator, it shouldn't vary. It should be the same thing. But we should understand at the end of it all, there is a law that says so. And something with law, you don't become sentimental and emotional when you are addressing law. That's what the law says. And you have to go by it until it has been changed. And when the National Assembly were talking about it, and I said, no, look, they should highly placed lawyers are there. They should appreciate the distinguishing facts about terrorism and banditry. And of course, my Lord Justice didn't call it a declaration of bandits. No, he mentioned the groups that were forwarded before him, before he now declared them terrorists. And if the federal government had gone with application based on we want terrorists to be, of course, the judge wouldn't have done that. Because you have to come by a proper identification of the elements involved. This is the position of the law.
All right, Mr. Jumbo, it appears to me, I might be right or wrong, that over time, the federal government, the Nigerian government at every level, has used the same strategy in dealing with these elements. And it appears that they have not been getting the desired results. And some have suggested that perhaps it is time to begin to change the strategy and at the same time change tactics in handling these different groups and different non-governmental forces that are bent on creating confusion, destabilizing society, and all of that. At what point do you think that government, and especially the military forces, should begin to tinker with the strategy and tactics in dealing with these forces?
Thank you. I'll start like this. In fact, let me quickly touch on something. Which one with the issue of the international law. We are not in isolation as a country, and we must conform. I went for a security training in South Africa, and I learned something strange, which was that if I'm attacked, the 9-round pistol that I have, and my attacker is running away, I must shoot only his leg. That if I shoot to kill, I am liable. But if he was facing me, I could claim that he was about killing me. That's when and I was like, wow, somebody just finished, he was stabbing or robbing me and he's running away, I can't kill. You can't be in isolation. It's a law, and we must live by it. Therefore, what you use for terrorists, when the US was selling us Tucano, it was inserted there. We cannot manufacture it for now. When we grow to that level, we call anybody's bluff, but we can't for now. Now, coming back to what you just said, you see, we are very sentimental people. We are also people who play to the gallery. We like populism. And I say that to say this. When this thing starts at the embryonic stage, the same people complaining will encourage them, especially if they have something politically different from either the government in power or they don't like the man in charge. I'll give an example. When Boko Haram started like child's play, people that were supposed to speak up kept quiet. Today they can't go home anymore. We're here together in Abuja every time, and they tell me, I've not been home for 8 months, 8 years, 6 years. When IPOB started, people that were supposed to speak up against non-state actors were seeking populism. They supported. Now many of them can't go home anymore. Which is why I have a little bit of respect for the southwestern Nigeria. They will never allow non-state actors dictate their narrative. When Yoruba Nation people started, they shut them down. Hey, you can't dictate a narrative. Now we are where we are. We need to, how do we now tackle what has grown to consumers? Yeah, like I said, we have to tinker. And in that tinkering is what has just happened, labeling bandits as terrorists, so that the military can go all out, apply the same strategy used for terrorism against these bandits, and let those of us who control narratives forget our individual differences and come together to save this country.
Commander, you have always talked about a document titled Nigerian Security Strategy 2019. How relevant is it in 2021? And how relevant is it to the situation we find ourselves now?
Okay. I will touch it. But let me add a little bit to, a little insight into what you asked, Best Man. The need to change our strategy and tactics, very important. Because like all Nigerians know, since this issue started, it's been the same way. We are always complaining, they are employing asymmetric tactics, they are doing this. For me, I said we can also do the same. But we keep saying we are conventional. Has it yielded anything since then? So, it's true we need to change our strategy and we need to change our tactic. But then the strategy has always been there. I've spoken on this set before about a document called National Security Strategy, which was signed into law by the President in 2019. That National Security Strategy gave us all the strategy, all the guidelines as to how to overcome our current challenges. But since 2019, we have not looked in that direction. I wonder why. Because in that book, it told us, it said, the security of lives and properties of Nigerians can no longer be consigned to the armed forces and the police alone. And went further to say that it should be an all-inclusive approach where everybody is carried along. The military, yes, the police, yes, but there are other agencies of government that should be involved. The traditional rulers should be involved, the religious leaders should be involved, and then the citizenry, until such a time that we all accept that a crime against one is a crime against all of us. Then we will start moving forward. But that instruction has been there in that book since 2019. So if we have not been doing it, I think it's high time to change our strategy and say, let's carry the whole nation along. Because in that same book, he said the government wants a whole of nation approach. This national security strategy is always the wish of any government in power. We had one in 2009, expired in 2014. President Goodluck Jonathan did his own. And now this is for the government for the next 5 years. But we are already 2 years, almost going to 3 years down the line. And the security strategy, which is the guideline, we have not even opened it. So I learned there's a committee now that is reforming the Ministry of Defense and the Armed Forces. Yes, and the Armed Forces. I'm praying that they will take more look at this document, and since they are reforming the Armed Forces and the military, they should also go out and get the society involved. If all of us are involved, when somebody sees something, somebody will say something, because these guys, both bandits, terrorists, they are not ghosts. They live within us. They are Nigerians, most of them. So when you see and say, you'll be helping the security agencies to help Nigeria. So that's what I wanted to add. Now, in the aim of tactics, in the area of tactics, yes, for me, I've seen the same kind of tactics since it started. So I will add my own voice that we do need to change strategy. Tactics. Kaduna-Abuja highway has become impassable to everybody. Only the daring can pass through. I will tell you here that there are technologies that will make that road passable within 1 week, if we dare to think and then employ them appropriately. How can bandits be inside somewhere in this country and we cannot see? There are satellites everywhere. There is VSAT everywhere. Why are we shying away from employing technology?
Why do you think we are shying away from employing technology?
Because we are not using them. Some people will complain that it's expensive. which expensive, what can you compare a life to? And let me say, without security, there is nothing. There is no development, there is no progress. So you must face that security. We must spend the money if we need to spend the money. Today you hear that food items are going up. Why? Insecurity. Because farmers could no longer go to the farm. And it's a roller coaster effect. It goes down. So when you fix your security, every other thing will follow. So I'm praying that we should do that.
Now, Barrister, let me try and link what Commodore just talked about now in terms of reforming the armed forces of Nigeria with what supposedly happened in October 2020. That is the NSAS protests that happened across Nigeria, but specifically what took place at the Lekki toll gate. You are aware that the judicial panel report has now been submitted to the Lagos State government, and the leaked report. I mean, I've tried as much as possible not to engage with this because it's still said to be a leaked report. There's no official report. There's no white paper yet. So everything we're saying is based on assumption that what is contained in that leaked report is the authentic thing. But the military and the Nigerian police were heavily indicted in that report. Now, if there is a committee that is set up to reform the Ministry of Defense and reform the armed forces of Nigeria, the assumption is that it will cut across board. That is every aspect of the military forces. Now, if you have seen that report, do you think, for instance, that the military was given a fair hearing?
Okay,
by that panel?
You get very, concise and well-analyzed question. Well, first of all, let me start from this angle. Of course, the armed forces or our security structure and platforms need to be a couple of steps ahead of the fellows that we have around. And I'm happy we have a very smart Attorney General of the Federation. And I think he's advancing good reasons for us to counter criminal narrative. But then the other side of it is the armed forces, I mean the enterprise that take them down. I agree with you. Now let's go back to the issue of the NSAS. You see, it comes with a lot of contradictions. First of all, two questions arise. They may be hypothetical questions. Was there a reason for NSAS protest? What came out of it? Was it any reasonable for a country growing like Nigeria to witness the destructions, the killings, now a narrative that seems to alienate our military and our security, and of course giving them a bad name based on report that up to today remains controversial. First of all, this NSAS committee, or particularly that one of Lagos, is illegal to a certain extent. And I say so in so many. In fact, I wrote an article on this issue, and I think people didn't listen to or bother to take cognizance of certain facts. Most of the actors, the supposedly actors, are federal government employees, the military, the police, and what have you. Therefore, the law that created that committee, in fact, took cognizance of that fact. And that's the reason why it didn't go to the police victims and other security victims. That is to say, the committee doesn't have requisite power to summon Nigerian police, the military, because they are under what exclusive list of our constitutional provisions.
But it was the federal government that empowered the states, directed the states to set up these committees, these panels.
Yes, you are right. The federal government did a lot of mistakes. First of all, by scrapping SARS the very moment the crisis started without taking proper evaluation of the situation. And you could remember northern state governors came and told the president that, look, we were never consulted, and these guys assist. And you can see it. after the dissolution of SARS, that escalate our insecurity in this country up till today. Up till today, prison yards are attacked, felons are released, insecurity become too prominent, overwhelming the system that we have, a system that is already weak. And today, we are by our own action doing what? Undermining the small structures that we have that is managing to make sure that we move. But if you also see that the report that came now is fraught with inaccuracies, inconsistencies, a lot of contradictions, and a lot of them could have in fact recused themselves the very moment the committee was inaugurated, because they didn't have anything to do in that committee. They had already assailed the committee even before the committee started its sitting. But today, because of certain political narrative, the social media and some entrenched interests in the media too make sure that the NSAS issue is always given a life. But just like Joseph Goebbels say, one of the Hitler's strategies say, all repeated lies were the face of truth. That's where we are. But we have come to the end of the show, and we just discovered that there is nothing to write home about. And federal government cannot be compelled by this report. Even the Lagos state government is not legally bound by the report. Even after the release of the white paper, it can be challenged. And the federal government, don't forget, doesn't even have the right to give that order. By what? By the decision in Faime versus Babangida that defined the legal position of a Oputa panel. The federal government doesn't have the power to do that. And of course, the states that have power, their power is limited to this legislative function that their state assembly can be able to do. That's why they stop. And to me, we didn't take a proper analysis of the situation, the way we prosecuted the issue of NSAS. So many elements congregated when NSAS movement were going on. We had the little number of people that they were genuinely prosecuting a protest for the purposes of police reforms. Then we have the criminals that SARS gave them a run for their money. They contributed more than. Then we had the political elements that came into your enemy, my enemy's enemy is. You understand. But yes, there were people that were out there. They might be hoodwinked into believing that we are protesting to bring reforms. But eventually, the reforms come to us. No. Look at our situation. Things are getting bad day by day. And the situation seems to be unabated. And then we are moving to a direction that we don't even know. And just like you said in your preamble, the military, look at the number of deaths the military is recording, the police, and all our security platforms. And there is no empathy from us. We keep on hammering them. And a lot of parents are in fact thinking of withdrawing their children from our security platform. According to what is going on, this is the only country in the world where military, the first citizens, are undermined, are assailed, are disgraced and abused. Up to today, the attack in capital in America, up to today, they are arresting protesters. How many people got killed in capital? One. But up to today, their legislators, whatever you have, are still on the issue to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself. But look at where we are. We are carried away by an insanely assembled report that will not stand the test of even a Sharia, a magistrate court, not to talk of Supreme Court. That's where we are. So we need to do a lot to encourage our military. These are our best citizens. They give their own for ours, and we don't respect them. We don't seem to believe that they are the reason why we are here. They are the reason why we are talking here. We seems to promote this insane idea of human rights. Human rights anywhere in the world, state security predominates human rights anywhere in the world. State security circumscribe human rights because the state has to exist before you exercise your right.
Well, Mr. Jumbo, when banditry started, it was more like a rural problem. It took place in far-flung places, rural part of Nigeria. That's where you heard of the kidnappings, the abductions for ransom, the rape, cattle rustling, what have you, in almost every part of Nigeria. But today it has grown into an urban problem. We now hear of, for instance, the assault on the correctional center in Jos, and a number of other correctional centers that have been attacked in recent times. We now hear of attacks in broad daylight in urban centers, in cities, and all of that. And so it appears that these bandits have become emboldened, they have become more sophisticated, and they have become more daring than they were when they were just confined to, say, rural Nigeria. Does that not tell us that we also need to adopt a new tactics, a new strategy in dealing with them?
I'll use Lagos as a case study. If you notice, this escalated banditry relatively with Lagos has been very low and unpronounced. Why? There's something we're doing that the governor kind of gave power for some of us who are involved to do. In every locality, in every community, all those people you term area boys, bad boys, are the ones with the responsibility of keeping their communities safe. That's where that's where alternative security, which people like us are experts on, thrive. In all those communities, there are some boys that have been rehabilitated who were miscreants. But Yoruba has a proverb, "Ole lo mese ole to," which means it's only the thief that knows the steps of another thief. So most of these guys now are watchdogs in their communities. In every community, they would find out who is strange that will just come in, and they will send a report. And as the report gets, there are levels of commands. Before you know it, the police are there, and the governor is equipping the police heavily. Now, this can be replicated. Like in the security policy strategy of the president, it says, get us all involved. It's not more a fight for the military. By the time, I might not have been an advocate of state police. I might not have been an advocate because of our peculiar situation. But peculiar situations demand peculiar responses. By now, we should be hearing of. I wouldn't be surprised to hear the federal government is laying off 400,000 civil servants to recruit 400,000 policemen at such a time as this, so that people can be involved. We are under-policed seriously. Even in Abuja, for example, now, Niger State is not very safe. And what's the guarantee for those of us in Abuja if Niger is overrun? Therefore, we need to change the strategies we're employing now. Get everybody involved. Some of us know what to do, but we don't discuss strategies on air. I'll leave it at that.
Commodore, moving forward, what do you think the state, that's when I say the state now, the government needs to do urgently? How can the people be involved?
Yeah, thank you. What government needs to do urgently? First, we'll go back to that book. Whatever we need to do to mobilize the whole Nigeria. You see, during the Civil War, I was young, but there was a slogan then. There was Yakubu Gowon. They took the Gowon part of it.
Go on with one Nigeria.
Go on with one Nigeria. And everybody went with one Nigeria, including children. How did we get everybody mobilized to believe in that? And that go on with one Nigeria, 67 to 70. Now, that's what we need to do. Who is going to mobilize us? The government must fight, because National Orientation Agency, today I don't feel them, but we must create even the national security strategy also said we must find a coordinator who will drive Nigerians to speak and believe in Nigeria. And my own, I said, who is going to be that Nigeria? It doesn't have to be a soldier. It doesn't have to be any prominent member of the ruling class, but he must be a man who, when he speaks, everybody listens and they follow him. It should be like our president used to say, a man that belongs to everybody and belongs to nobody. You will get that man. It doesn't have to be a soldier. It doesn't have to be a politician. And mobilize all of us to believe in Nigeria, one cause, one nation. Now, the next thing they need to do is to look at the military. Thank God that committee is sitting to reform and challenge them and say, you can do it. You have this, you have this. If you don't have enough, we will empower you. Make Nigeria safe. Forget what you have been doing. Think of other ways, because we are not seeing the results. Think of other ways to do it, and I think we will progress.
Barrister, there is, as it seems, an erosion of public confidence in government and those who are in government. And that's, of course, one of the reasons that led to the NSAS protests and everything that followed. Now, Commodore is talking about getting Nigerians to believe in Nigeria, to reestablish confidence in Nigeria. And reestablishing confidence in Nigeria means reestablishing confidence in government. Yeah. Now, how do we reestablish that confidence? How do we do away with this erosion of confidence that is there? There's a lot of cynicism in the Nigerian society today. The outcome of the NSAS investigations are being submitted in various states of the country today. And a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what will come out of all of this.
Well, prominent, like I told you, we created lies, the Nigerian social conversation, particularly with regards to the NSAS matter in Lagos. We even carelessly used the word massacre, without taking recourse to the legal definition of massacre. The operative word here is indiscriminate killing of men. Two words, killing and men. And even at the, with all the manipulations that took place in the committee, they were only able to come with 3 people. An example of massacre was the Jewish gassing in Europe, 1940-something, then the Rwandan issue. But here you are talking about 3 people. In fact, questionable number, the 3 too was a questionable number, but yet we hype this idea of massacre. Tell me.
Massacre in context.
They now use an absurdity, massacre in context. Never known to our legal lexicons that there is something called massacre. How do you draft that kind of process in court and say, look, I'm before you judge to determine whether there was what is massacre in context? I find even the syntax very worrying, not to call of legal implication of that statement. There is nothing in Nigerian legal system, the global legal jurisprudence, that agree with the word massacre in context. There was no massacre. There was no massacre. Admit your mistakes, and we move. We have problem. The biggest problem we have as Nigerians is we don't appreciate the quantum of blessing that God has given us, called Nigeria, because we hardly travel out of this country. Even when we are traveling, the privileged few that travel out go to already established societies where everything works. But if our Nigerians are visiting Libya, the likes of this, would have known that we have a country that we need to come and develop an identity of love, oneness of this country, respect for the rule of law, and believing that we don't have anywhere to go other than Nigeria. Would that start from the school? No. It should be elicited right from our homes, our worshiping centers, and of course, our conversation centers. We need to change our narratives. Nigeria as a geography doesn't have anything to offer to us. We, the content of Nigeria, we are to offer to Nigeria. It's a lexicon that moved America to where it is today. Americans are not thinking of what America can do unto me, but what I will do to advance the greatness of America. And in the reverse, the narrative we give the younger generation is, look, the government has to do that, the government has to do that. And that's the reason why you see young people just resorting to what? To protest, demanding something that they cannot get. Tell me what we have gotten out of answers, other than destruction.
Well, Commodore says there must be a driver of this process.
The driver might not be an individual. I listen to him. The driver might not be, it must be a collective effort to drive the conversation. And we need to change it from all the angles. And here, sir, you are more prominently placed in that strategic position to move it. Because Nigerians are in love with the media. You guide the conversation. You are fast becoming not just our social moral compass, but you are now becoming our political samples, to where we all pray to. So you have a lot to do. And when you look at the media practice in Nigeria, and I think we have quite a different one than what I have seen and what I've been hearing and the little I have seen out of this country. But we need to develop the law for this country. You might not like the president, you might not like the government. Their period is very transient. In a little time they are going, and Nigeria will remain. So, if you think the only way to register your grievance against any existing or subsisting government is to go after it, at the end of it, you discover that you are going against yourself. And I agree with you, we need to build a conversation that will develop our love for this country. Look, it's a compellable necessity because we don't have any option. Europe is becoming entangled in economic crisis. Therefore, they are fighting and creating new policies to do what? Wipe off immigrants. Where will you go to? The global system is localizing our habitations. You don't have anywhere to go. So the earlier we start thinking, according to what you said, the better for us. We don't have any country. But I think we should think less of protest and think of building consensus and coming into political arena with the intention of doing something for the country.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jumbo, 60 seconds. Our time is fast spent. What for you would be your recommendation for government and for the people?
Building on what we are saying, I think government need to set a pace for the people to follow in the area of patriotism. Let us see our leaders set that pace. That when we see, for example, when I see that my leader is Spartan, my leader is not the one that likes to aggrandize everything to himself, I will get caution. When I see that my leader loves Nigeria, I will love Nigeria. I think they should set that pace and the people will follow.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We've had a very, very interesting conversation here today. And I've been joined by Mr. Buhari Yusuf, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Of course, Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, retired, is a former Director, Operations, Nigeria Air Force. Thank you, Commodore, for joining us. And Mr. Bestman Nze Jumbo, who is an alternative security expert. Thank you for your time. And to you, our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power.